Hi, I'm Andy Jones, Content Editor for Plaid's online education program, Let's Paint. And in today's Skill Builder, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about tracing and transferring a pattern. Tracing and transferring a design isn't difficult. There are a few things that you need to keep in mind so that you can do a really good job, because your painting is only as good as your design. Plaid has a number of designs that you can download from the website, and this is one that we used in a previous skill builder. And I'm going to show you how to trace and transfer the simple pear design. So to trace your design, you need to use a good quality, transparent tracing paper. If you put your tracing paper over your design and you have any trouble seeing your design through it, your tracing paper is too opaque. So make sure that you get something that is actual tracing paper to do this with. Then you also need a good fine point pen. Don't try to trace your design with a number 2 pencil or some ballpoint pen that you've picked up somewhere. Get a nice fine point marker. And if it's a big involved design, you might want to put a couple of little pieces of tape so that your pattern doesn't shift on you while you're tracing it. But simply start at one point of the design, and all you're going to do is to trace the outlines. Make sure that you position your design so that you can see what you're tracing. Don't ever try to trace blindly, because you need to be accurate when you're tracing your design. So follow along. And for things like fruits and flowers, it's not particularly crucial that your design be exact. If you're painting an animal or a design that has some architecture or anything else like that, and you need to be as precise as you possibly can. All right, so I've traced the pear. I did not add any of the shading lines that are indicated on here or the shadow. Let's just put this last little bit up in here. All right, so when I'm sure that I've traced everything, you can remove the pattern, and there you have your design that you're going to transfer onto your surface. Let's talk about what things you need to transfer your design onto a surface. The easiest method to use is with gray transfer paper. And gray transfer paper works well if you're transferring to a medium or light value background. This is not the same thing as carbon paper. If you try to transfer your design with old-fashioned typewriter carbon, you're going to regret that decision the minute you start to paint on it, because that's going to turn into a hot mess. All right, so you would put your design on your surface where you want it, and if it was an involved design, I would recommend that you put a small piece of tape to hold it in place. Then, most important thing to do when using your gray transfer paper, there's a good side and a bad side. The good side goes down, and you're thinking, how can you tell what the good side is from the bad side? The easiest thing to do is to lay your paper down and just to make a mark. If you can see the mark, then that's the side that you want to slip underneath your traced design. Then I highly recommend using a stylus to transfer your design. Some people say to use a dead ballpoint pen or all sorts of other gizmos, but a stylus is the best thing to do. And you can find these at your art or craft supply store. Then you're going to begin simply to draw over the lines that you have traced. And I recommend that once you've done a little bit of this, to do a little reveal and make sure that your design is transferring to the surface. Sometimes, given the surface preparation or your graphite paper or just the alignment of the planets, things just are not going to transfer very well. So instead of tracing over the entire design and finding that out too late, do a little bit and then check to see how things are going. You do not need to try to engrave your design onto your surface. You should be able to transfer using a light pressure on the stylus. If you use a real heavy pressure, then you'll indent your surface and you'll have that forever. All right, so I've transferred my design using gray transfer paper onto a light color background, and now I would be ready to paint. I could slip my graphite out and then remove my traced design. If you're asking how do you transfer onto a dark background, well, I'm going to show you two different ways to do that. So I have a black background, and I am going to show you how to transfer your design. We're going to transfer the same pair design. I'm going to do this one up here, and I am using a piece of white transfer paper. You can find this at your craft store or online. You need to be careful with your white transfer paper because sometimes if you transfer your design lines very heavily, sometimes it's a little hard to cover or a little bit difficult to remove after you've painted your design. But again, it's going to have a good side and a bad side to it, and you want to put your transfer paper down, make a little mark, and if you can see the mark, then you've got the good side down, and you're simply going to slip that underneath your design. And if it's a complicated design, once again, put some tape on, tape it in place. Otherwise, use your stylus and a very light pressure and begin to trace over your design lines. And once you've done a little bit of your design, take a peek underneath to make sure that everything is transferring beautifully to your surface. Once you've made that determination, then again lightly go over the tracing using a light pressure, and then check to make sure that everything is transferred. And there you go. You have your design transferred onto a dark background. Now, there's another method that we can use to transfer designs, and this works well for medium to dark backgrounds, and that is good old-fashioned chalkboard chalk. You can buy this at the craft store, comes in a little box. Do not get dustless chalk. You want the cheapest chalk that you can find. So here is the front of my design on my tracing paper. I'm going to turn that over, and I'm going to use the chalk, and I'm simply going to chalk the back of the design. Don't lay the chalk flat down and just scribble all over the back of your design. You want to just go over the outline, because you don't want an excessive amount of chalk dust everywhere. So go over your design. Then I like to turn the design down and flick it a little bit, and that'll get rid of any excess chalk that we have. Going to now make sure that my surface is clean. I'm going to position my design where I want it. I'm going to put my design down, and I'm going to use my stylus, and I'm going to gently begin to go over those design lines. And as always, you want to stop and check to make sure that your design is transferring. And when you've made sure about that, you're going to trace over the entire pair or whatever design you're transferring. Make sure you've got it all on there. And there is your pair transferred using the chalk method. One thing that I really like about the chalk method is that if you need to get rid of your design, you can simply take a little spit on your finger and you can wash the chalk right away. It's very easy to get rid of your design if you need to, or to clean up any transfer lines after you've painted. So we've shown you how to use gray transfer paper, white transfer paper, and chalk to transfer your design to your surface. So I don't think you'll have any problem transferring your design onto your surface using one of these three methods.